Alright guys, new video. I'm excited for this one. If you're new to the channel, my name is Courtne. I build and scale agencies. I've been doing it for about 5 years. I also run an education company where I help agency owners just like you. And I've helped, easily 100, 200 plus agencies implement systems and scale up their service delivery. Now, I'm excited because as you can't tell, on most of these videos, I usually talk about customer acquisition, getting clients, getting meetings, all those things. But today, I'm going to reveal to you the one little secret that I've used and applied to dozens of agencies to make sure that their service delivery runs like clockwork, right? Yes, you heard that right. Clockwork. That's the phrase that I use to describe what a good agency should operate at when it comes to service delivery, right? Now, what does that actually mean? Well, if you think about clockwork, that basically means that everything should be designed very precisely, right? Things shouldn't just happen. If you look at a watch, right, it just works. It's not random that the little ticker moves like this. It just happens, and that's how it's designed. And it moves at the right speed at all times. Secondly, it's always on time, right? Service delivery should be on time. Your client results should come in when you expect them to come in, right? So that you can get paid when you are expected to be paid, and your team can get paid as well. So it should always be on time, and it should almost be beautiful, right? And a lot of people, when they hear me talk about service delivery and things, they can tell that I get passionate. That's because I believe in agency clockwork and building an agency that runs like clockwork, right? And if you look at the inside of a nice watch or something like that, what you'll usually find is it's almost beauty, right? It's design. Someone's taken the time to design it in such a way that it will never break and it runs perfectly, right? And today, I'm going to reveal to you the key that I've discovered on exactly how to build this in your agency, right? So here we go. The key that I've learned is what I call ESAD, right? And you guys know that I like turning things into, these little phrases or models that you can, print, remember, and apply on a daily basis. So today I'm going to teach you ESAD, right? And what this basically stands for is eliminate, simplify, automate, and delegate. Okay, so whenever you look at anything on your agency that is service related, right? Onboarding, delivering results, calls, pretty much anything in your agency, it doesn't matter. What I want you to do is look at the process, look at the SOP, and run through this framework. Now, the key thing here is to do it in this order, right? So, we want to eliminate before we simplify, and we want to simplify before we automate, and we want to automate before we delegate, right? And that's the first thing that I want to explain is exactly why this order is this way, right? Because it's very important that you understand that. So, obviously, why would we waste our time simplifying things or automating it, because that requires setting up softwares and things, or delegating it, which requires training someone and going through that mission, if we just don't need to do it in the first place, right? So we'll obviously just eliminate it, right? Now, it is impossible to automate or delegate something incredibly complex without worrying about it breaking, right? So what you will find over time is if you have something that's really, really advanced, as far as it's not a linear process, it's more just like you go in and you use the knowledge that you've accumulated over a long career to basically decide what to do next. It's very, very difficult to automate those things or to delegate them, right? Those are usually your higher level tasks, which you as the agency owner and business owner should probably be doing yourself, right? But you will see that there are tasks where you come in and you pretty much go through the same step-by-step process over and over and over and over again, right? Those are the perfect things that you want to automate and delegate, okay? So what this basically means is complicated tasks are very difficult to automate or delegate. So before we go to automation and delegation, we want to simplify them as much as possible, because what that's going to do is increase the reliability of the systems that we build around automation and delegation, okay? Finally, why do we want to automate something before we delegate it? Well, machines are just better than humans for a lot of ways, right? So if you think about a process in the agency, do you want a machine doing it or a human doing it if both of them could do it at the same level? Well, you always want to opt for a machine. Why? Because machines can run 24/7, right? They don't ever complain. You don't have to build a culture and, generate perks in the agency to attract top talent. You don't have to do any of that. You just have to pay them. It's also a lot cheaper to pay them. They don't need benefits or all of these things. They are never sick. There's a lot of reasons why machines beat humans if both of them can do the same thing at the same quality, right? But as we said, there are some tasks that machines just can't do. And so the next step is to delegate, right? The final thing here that I would probably put as like a fifth thing is you, right? You are the last line of defense, or if you have a big agency or CMO, which pretty much means if a process cannot be eliminated, cannot be simplified further, cannot be automated, and for some reason you just either don't have the budget to hire the talent smart enough to do it, or you can't find the person, or whatever it is, you can't delegate it, well then, yeah, you have to do it, right? But most people, what they do is they don't go through this process, right? And let me explain why. So when you start an agency, what usually happens is you get a client, your first client, second client, third client. You don't actually know what's going to work, right? You sort of know how to deliver the service. Maybe you've learned Facebook ads or Google ads or whatever it is, but you basically have to test like a lot of things. And so what this does is, if we break this out, is you test something here, right? You test something there, you test something there, you test something there. And what ends up happening is you get this like big mess of stuff, right? You've tested multiple landing pages, multiple ad copy, multiple types of creative. Like you just got this big mess, right? And this also comes down to the way, nature and biology works, which is everything has a tendency to expand. There's that whole thing of, the universe is still today constantly expanding. Everything has a tendency through evolution to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, right? What you need to do is recognize this and say, right, let's first put it in a box. Let's extract out of all of this stuff what is actually making the difference, right? Because everything also runs on the Pareto principle, right? Which is, the 80-20. So usually what this means is most things come from the least things. So you'll find that, 20% of all of this mess is what drives 80% of the results, right? Now, the other 80%, which is literally the stuff that's taking a lot of time, probably a lot of cost if you have teams or you have softwares, is actually delivering the 20% results, right? So if you look at this and you just say, well, why don't we just get rid of this? Let's get rid of that and just do these things, because then what happens is I'm going to get, 20% less results, but I will free up a lot of time, a lot of capital, and a lot of energy, which is going to allow me to do more of this 20%. And if I do more of these 20% tasks that actually matter, what will happen is over time, your results actually skyrocket. They go exponential because you're doing more of what works, right? But in the beginning, you have to obviously figure this out, right? So you have to just do a bunch of things, then figure out what works. But as soon as you can, what we do is we eliminate the 80% that is taking a lot of time and energy from us, but not actually driving results, okay? Now that we are down just to the bare bone things of what we need to do that actually matters, now what we need to do is simplify it, right? How can we take a process that used to be complicated and simplify it? Very, very basic example that just came to mind here is what would happen, let's just say you run a Facebook ads agency, just as an example, and when a client joins, you obviously need access to their accounts. Two ways to do that, right? Step one is, okay, on the onboarding call with the client, you say, hey client, please can you share your screen? And you go there and you tell them which button to press, and you go through the process. That is not simplified. That's actually quite complicated because first of all, whoever's taking the call needs to know what they're talking about. There's a lot of complications which come up, right? So let's simplify it. How about we just record a YouTube video or a Loom or something like that, doing it ourselves. And then we just send it to the client before the onboarding call. And then on the onboarding call, we just say, hey client, did you do the action steps? And if so, were there any problems? And let's solve those, right? 9 out of 10 times, the client's going to say, yeah, I followed the video exactly. And there was no problems and it's done, right? So we have simplified it to its bare bone process, right? Then what we do, once we have the simplified version of it, we automate it and then we delegate it, right? So when we look at automation, I think a lot of people get frightened by this because it sounds like you got to learn how to code and you got to be like in the weeds doing things. It's really not the case, right? For most agencies, I would say literally you can get away with just two tools. You can get away with Zapier, and the other one is a tool called make.com, right? And what are these two tools? Well, most of you probably already know Zapier, right? Like Zapier is quite well known. It's quite simple and easy to use. Make is like Zapier on steroids, right? So it's super, super more useful, but it's also more complicated, right? You have to sort of kind of know how the back end of a lot of these softwares work to really understand it. This has got a big learning curve. For most people, I actually don't even think it's necessary. I think you can just stick it to Zapier. So whenever you have a process in your agency, I would always first check if you can somehow make a zap out of it. And the cool thing is a lot of these zaps, you can actually find what I think they call recipes. It's pretty much templates. So it's already done for you. You just change a few things here and there, right? Now we automate it. And what this does is, again, we have a robot doing it. And because we have a robot doing it, it's always going to be consistent, right? And the key little thing here is to wait for breaks, right? So in an automation, when something breaks, it doesn't work, it will basically send you a notification. Okay, that's important. Right. Finally, we move on to delegation, right? And this is where I see a lot of agency owners also push back because delegation requires bringing down profits, right? Because you have two options here. If you've eliminated it as much as possible, you've simplified as much as possible, and you've determined that you cannot automate it, the only other options is, well, get someone to do it or do it yourself, right? And what happens is when you get someone to do it that's not you, you have to pay them, right? So what you are essentially doing is saying, right, I'm going to make less money, right? But I'm going to free up my time, okay? And what you will realize over, time of doing this for long enough is your most valuable asset as a business owner is actually time. Because someone explained this to me a very long time ago, and since he explained it to me, I've really changed the way that I view this, which is you can always go make more money, right? If you think about your bank balance, right? Your bank balance throughout your life, unless you do something really stupid, is usually going up over time, right? You usually are earning more each month. And as long as, your expense to income ratio is good, it's probably going up, right? Even if it's a small amount, but it is rising. The only thing in life that is always falling is time, right? So like, when you're born with a set amount of time on your clock. And when that time runs out, well, you die. End of story. And we can always go and make a lot more money, We can always go and, build more processes. We can always do this, but what we cannot do is go and get more time. So as soon as you realize this, time is actually your most sacred resource other than focus, you suddenly start to question, why am I giving away my time so cheaply and, for tasks that I just don't need to be doing, right? And what another people don't realize is if you take this extra time, you have two options, right? You can, let's say you had 1 unit of time, just to explain this properly. Let's say you had 1 unit of time. Now you've hired a bunch of people, and so now you have 3 units of time, right? You have a choice here, right? The first thing you could do is take this unit of time and sit on the beach, right? Do nothing. And I suppose there is a benefit to that because, lifestyle, happiness, those are all important things, right? But another thing is you could go invest that into, more important activities in the business, such as growing your pipeline, hiring better people, building culture, doing all these things, okay? You could do all of that. But here's the secret. Let's say I want to spend 1 unit of time on the beach, okay? And I'm going to spend the other 2 units that I've freed up building my business, right? Again, in the beginning, we said you have, 1 unit of time. Now you have 3 because you've freed up your time. Even if you actually sit on the beach and do nothing, you are actually still going to make more process because 2 units beats 1 unit, right? So here you can see the beauty of it. By delegating, you can actually relax more, but still get more done, right? And everyone would say, yeah, but you're losing profit. But again, these higher income activities have a multiplying effect on income, right? So these activities are kind of like one-to-one, right? Where it's like, it can add to your bank balance and add to your bank balance. But these high income activities, they don't add, they multiply, right? And, anyone will tell you multiplication beats addition any day of the week, right? And so really, really simple little framework that I learned a while ago and I wanted to share with you guys. It's called ESAD. I would literally write this on your wall, put it somewhere, remember it at all times. And the next time you find yourself building a service delivery system or questioning why is my service delivery not working or can it be working better, I'd encourage you to adopt this model and apply ESAD. Put everything basically through a filter for ESAD and you should see incredible results on the back end of it. So if you can't already tell, I'm super, super passionate about systems and building agencies, and that's why I run Systems and Profit. First link in the description, you can watch a quick 10-minute video, explains exactly what I do, who I help. If that's you, great. If not, cool. Nothing else to sell you. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, guys.